remember, like Bob Clark and Doug Campbell.
Rob Clark and Joe Bordelli.
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk and spit on that thing.
In the heart of Dallas, where legends unfold, a tale of shadows, mysteries untold, but truth is obscured in the depths of the night. The Lone Gunman Podcast sheds a flickering light.
Section 107 of the Fair Use Act of 1976 provides protection to use copyrighted material for research, analysis, education, and commentary purposes. We here at Loose Moose Productions reserve that right. Now, on with the show. Here's Joe B and the Triple B. Hey, Aunt Udine, how's things in Texas?
Everything is going to hell down here in Texas.
Hands on Triple B and Joe B. Joe B and the Triple B, baby. Triple B and Joe B. Rock on, get Joe Morelli. Triple B and Joe B. Joe B and Triple B, baby. Triple B and Joe B. Rock on, get Joe Morelli. And here we go.
And here we go.
What's up, everybody? It's Mr. Roboto, otherwise known as the Triple B, here again with you today. Welcome to episode number 306 of the Lone Gunman Podcast. And this is the a discharge of epic proportions, folks. Now, it's not the discharge you may be thinking, you filthy-minded fools out there. We're going to be getting into all kinds of good stuff, but before we do, Joe, I got some exciting news.
All right, let's jump right into it.
You know, we're pretty big in America, right? That's like our number one country. I believe it's followed by the UK, Canada, and number 4. Hopefully, our buddy Ashley is going to up our stock down under. Check this out, Joe. Okay. Ashley was kind enough to send me a couple pictures. Check this out. He is repping the Lone Gunman Podcast at the Kennedy Memorial down in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Respect, sir. Respect.
Yeah, look at that. That's beautiful, isn't it? That's a beautiful park. Wow.
We got to send him some stickers, Rob. That's what we have to do.
Absolutely. But yeah, man, that is very cool of you to do, Ashley. We appreciate it. I think that's awesome, right, Joe?
I love to see it. We are worldwide, sir.
You love to see it. And if you are looking for a new house down in Victoria, in Australia, Ashley is your guy. Ashley Bynon. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Ashley Bynon, Bynon. I used to think it was Binion, but I don't think that's right either. But who the hell knows? So sorry, we don't know how to properly pronounce your last name, but I did spell it. And if you're looking for a realtor, Ashley is your guy.
All right.
Down under.
Yeah.
This might give me a vacation house down that way, Joe. You never know.
Hey, except for the flight, that sounds pretty good.
Right. And then we also got a surprise that we've been asking for a while, Joe. I got a surprise for you.
You always surprise me.
It's some audio that we've been asking for. So our boy Turin Horse come through in the clutch. Here you go, folks. Here you go.
Right as it stands right now, there's only 2 of us left alive. That's me and Sano Trafficani. And as far as I'm concerned, we're both going to stay alive because I ain't going to say shit. The only thing I'm saying is any of you assholes come near me, shit together, and I'll blow the first one of you motherfuckers away that even comes near me. And that you can put in print.
So that, folks, for those who aren't familiar, is Lauren Hall, right? One of our prime suspects in the Kennedy assassination conspiracy milieu, if you will, croissant. Yeah. So, you know, when you hear people like Lauren Hall saying this type of stuff, it's and you know, you're thinking about all these connections. You know, he was in jail with Santos Trafficante down in Cuba, and the meeting at Martino's. So, you know, where money's exchanged allegedly.
Yeah.
You know, it's just very incriminating. So once again, thanks to Turin Horse for getting that clip to us. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, sir.
And he is here.
Yeah.
He is here.
Yeah. And hello to everyone in the chat. I don't think we said hi yet. Thank you, John, as usual. I believe you sent us a super chat last week as well, so thank you as well. And thanks for Paula Jane for hitting the thanks button on our last show, which we weren't live for, Rob.
Yes.
Which you can do, folks.
Yeah, all you gotta do is hit the thanks button on any of our videos that we have up, and if you like what you hear, we definitely appreciate it. So John's in. I seen Claude in here talking about trimming Aunt Udine's bush.
Tiny Dancer, hello. She sent me some really good emails, Rob, in the past couple days with regarding our favorite Martin.
Yes.
And I haven't had the time to respond yet, Tiny, or really look into it. Been a hectic week, but I will, and I will get back to you. So thank you.
Yeah, and that is true. Joe ghosted me for like 2 days.
Not on purpose.
He's a very busy man. Very busy man.
Yes. Mogridge. I don't know if
they've been here before.
Yeah, hello.
Lee Ralph, Bushcraft Projects and Homesteading. Well, hello, sir.
Yeah, new name.
Slacker Dan's in the house.
Moose. I think we said hi, Paula
Moose
J.
7. Big Mike's in the house. Alpha 66.
All the homies are here.
See No Evil. Chris Burton from across the pond.
Chris.
Big Red Phillips.
Yeah.
The Umbrella Man is here.
Hey.
Hey, I wish we could interview him. Like I said, Turn Horse is here. The Grunge Truck is in the house. Scott Edwards is in the house. What's up, Scott? Cheers. Cheers, Chris. I think we're missing Sally and missing Colleen, but hopefully they'll show up here in a little bit.
Yeah.
So without further ado, Joe, I believe you have some interesting things to get into concerning the Berlitz School of Languages.
Yes. So, you mentioned to me you were going down to Nollins, and
actually, I didn't. I told you I was going to do Marguerite in the candy jar. It's okay.
I thought you mentioned you had some New Orleans stuff too.
You've had a really rough week. It's okay.
But I just wanted to cover an interesting character in New Orleans. But before I do, Rob, just want to get this out of the way. Lancer in Dallas, November 22nd through 24th. As you can see, a bunch of big names here. The Grodins, Hancock, Doug Campbell, Alex Harris, Bill Simpich, Carmine Salvastanos, Mike Swanson, David Boylan, Dick Russell, and your boy, Joe Borelli, Gail Nix Jackson, Chuck Ocelli. So use code Gunman10 for 10% off. Save $10 or $20 on your ticket. And hope to see you guys there.
Save 10% off any ticket package.
Right.
Whether you go there in person or you order it online from the comfort of your own living room, use our code and you can save 10% off of any ticket package.
Yes, sir. And before I start, one last thing. Silk City. So
Yes.
I didn't know this, but this is a picture on the top left of Jeff, who is the owner of Silk City. And
Yeah. What's up, Jeff?
he's pitting some peaches. And I think he has some peach trees on his property. And he got a X number of pounds. He said it in another tweet. And then he cuts it, boils it, and he's already packaged it himself. So not only is Jeff a friend of the show, listened to us for a long time, he's also a really good guy and makes it by himself every step of the way without the government inserted ingredient nonsense. So
yeah,
that's always, hey, you can't put a price on that, Rob. And
that's right. It's priceless.
Gunman for 20% off your order. And we are going to be talking with him in the next couple of weeks to discuss a new TLG flavor. Boom.
Yes. We have forwarded him a bunch of ideas, and I think we'll be narrowing it down here in the next couple of weeks. And thank you guys for all your participation in the flavor ask that we asked of you guys. You know, some really unique ideas to really set apart the Lone Gunman Silk City collab that's going to be coming hopefully sooner than later. For sure.
Yes, sir. And definitely stay tuned to that. And shout out to, I think it was Josh, who wrote like 7 or 8 different flavor recommendations with a ton of detail. And that was pretty awesome.
Thank you, Perpetual Concepts, for that. Very generous. Yes. Better tardy than Lee Harvey. That's right, baby. I love it. I love it. Robbie's in the house.
Oh, hey, Rob.
Thomas is in the house. T. Sims. Robbie is going to Dallas for Fred Litwin only. So
I respect that, actually. All right, so I'm going to get into it here.
Leave Fred alone. Yeah. You'll see. He's a very nice guy, Joe, when you meet him in person down there.
I'm sure. And even people that I thought weren't going to be nice people, just based on some whatever I read or watched online, were extremely nice. Last year, I didn't meet anyone who
easy, Robbie.
He's
easy.
Not nice. So, all right. So let's get into Arnesto Rodriguez Jr. Now, this is not a common name in the JFK assassination.
He has a sad face, Joe. He has a very sad face.
He does. And this is actually a screenshot of a video. Hopefully we'll show soon if that's downloaded for you. But he was a Cuban who ran the New Orleans Berlitz Language School, where in 1963 he met none other than Lee Harvey Oswald. Arnesto was also an FBI informant, extremely close with Carlos Brignier, and a very important figure in the exile community. Although he was born in, I believe, Miami. So I don't know if he's an exile per se, if he wasn't exiled from Cuba, but doesn't matter. And was also associated with a lot of far-right extremists, including some really far-right Nazis and John Birch Society meetings. One of the guys he was talking with was George Lincoln Rockwell,
head of the American Nazi Party.
Yeah. So this guy was an extreme right-winger, as well as a Cuban exile. Lee Harvey Oswald's first encounter with the Cubans in New Orleans was with Arnesto Rodriguez in July of '63. Some people say early August, but and when he met Lee Harvey Oswald, Oswald was already aware of the Cuban training camp in Lake Pontchartrain, which was very interesting to him. And Arnesto Rodriguez was the one who referred Oswald to Carlos Brignier. But when Oswald visited the Berlitz School, they had a conversation in Russian Rob, and also Spanish.
Wow.
And we'll get into a couple documents in a second, but Arnesto said they didn't speak that much Russian because he couldn't keep up. He wasn't as fluent as Lee's Russian at the time. So I feel like Lee was there not only to inquire on Cuban activities, but possibly to learn Spanish as well. And one thing I wanted to stop and say was, so Arnesto Rodriguez spoke bad Russian, but really obviously fluent Spanish. Does that possibly ring any bells, maybe in the Mexico City arena?
Yeah, from the wiretaps.
Yes, it was reported that whoever was impersonating Oswald did not speak good Russian, but spoke really good Spanish. So
that's how I got Sylvia Duran between the sheets.
Yeah, he probably learned in
we talked here a little bit.
But this idea actually, so David Boylan has done a ton of research on the Rodriguez brothers, and he was actually the one that brought that up. I was listening to some of his presentations and reading some of his work, and we're going to give him a lot of credit, especially when it comes to Emilio Rodriguez, which he was his brother, which we'll get into shortly. In addition, Arnesto, to the language school, was the director of a Spanish language newspaper, El Tiempo, and secretary for Citizens for a Free Cuba, and was also allowed to sign checks for the CRC as well. Arnesto's brother.
He's buddies with Sergio Arcacha Smith and Brinier and all them dudes, right?
Yes, sir. And of course, we'll get into Emilio. He was a CIA counterintelligence legend. But
legend.
This right here, and I don't know if we could play it, Rob, and I'll stop sharing, but this is a screenshot from WDSU archive, and it's titled Interview with Lee Harvey Oswald. He goes into his spiel on what's the difference between a Marxist and a communist. But in the first minute, maybe a little less, there's video of the Cuban exiles, including Brinier, both the Rodriguez brothers, leaving the courthouse. And guess who's sitting there, posted up, just staring them down. Being a tough guy. Lee Harvey Oswald. Very interesting. If I've seen it before, I don't remember seeing it. So I'm sure it'll be new to some of you. And I guess, Rob, we could just play it through the end. It's short. It's only a minute.
You never sent me the link for this video.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, I downloaded it. It should work. And the first part is without audio. So I'm an idiot. I was thinking of the wrong video. A lot of videos here, guys.
Hey now. Joe's had a very tough week, folks.
Yes. A lot of videos we like to share with you here. So
here we go.
Here we go. Exiles leaving Emilio. Look at him.
Bitches.
Brinier, both Rodriguez. There's the Marine manual that he gave to Brinier. Interesting. They brought that to the courthouse, right?
Yeah.
And I think this was after he was.
I showed you, Judge, why I ain't pissed off.
Yeah. But actually, you know what? I'm going to go back again.
What are we doing?
Going back.
Going back.
Because it's quick. So this is Emilio Rodriguez, who we're going to get into. This is the back of the head of Arnesto. This is obviously Lee Harvey Oswald. Look at him. Arms crossed, kneeling up against the wall, giving them the ultimate side-eye glare, right?
Well, it's all a play. Theater of the mind.
Possibly. And then you have, of course, this is the screenshot I took of Ernesto and Emilio Bernier in the left there, right here, with the glasses, you can see.
Carlos.
And of course, the guidebook.
Ridiculous to toss into this conversation. You're a Marxist? Well, I have the Marxist philosophy, yes, sir, and also other philosophers. But are you a Marxist? I think you did admit on an earlier radio interview that you consider yourself a Marxist. Well, I would very definitely say that I am a Marxist. That is correct. But that does not mean, however, that I'm a communist. What is the difference between the two? Well, there's a great deal of difference. Several American parties in several countries are based on Marxism, such as Ghana. Certain countries have characteristics of a socialist system, such as Great Britain, with its socialized medicine. These then are the differences between an outright communist.
So this audio is coming through like dog shit.
Okay. It's okay. I just wanted to play the end of that for a little bit because we're going to get into what Ernesto says about Lee Harvey Oswald and being a show-off, trying to impress everyone with his self-education and vocabulary.
He's using those big words.
Yeah, essentially. So, all right. So in the Warren Commission, Rob, there is one mention of Arnesto Rodriguez, although they spelled his name wrong with an E-R-N. This is kind of, the font isn't that clear. Sorry about that. His actual name is Arnesto. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. But on November 27th, 1963, a widow named Miss Maria Rodriguez de Lopez made the statement in Mexico that her son-in-law, a Cuban named Ernesto Rodriguez, operates a Spanish school in New Orleans and had tape recordings of a Spanish conversations by Oswald. She stated that her son is opposed to Fidel Castro. Ernesto Rodriguez, president of the Modern Language Institute, New Orleans, advised that Oswald contacted him on one occasion during the last week of July or early August 1963 and inquired concerning a Spanish language course offered at the Institute. Oswald did not take any courses, and Rodriguez said he had no tape recordings, of course, and had no knowledge of Oswald's Spanish-speaking ability. So I was like, where did they get this from? Well, I found it. And this is a CIA document on November 26th, 1963. And title, Ernesto Rodriguez, Anti-Castro Cuban, Knew Oswald in New Orleans. And you know, Rob, we love the early documents, right? 4 days after the assassination, this information is starting to trickle in. Of course, it's a stupid, cursive, handwritten note. But essentially, it says, and give me just 1 second here. Yeah, so this is, they're talking about the Maria Rodriguez de la Lopez, said son-in-law living in New Orleans was a friend of Oswald. Rodriguez runs a language school in New Orleans, and something to his mother-in-law, or was talking about Cuban refugees. But at the end here, Rob, and the very end, it says Rodriguez had tape recorded a conversation with Oswald. So it's not just hearsay per se. It's in a CIA document a couple days after the assassination that he had a tape conversation with Oswald.
Yes. And allegedly Oswald said some incriminating things according about planning the assassination. But I think when pursued, Arnesto could never produce these recordings. So
yeah,
I think it was a bunch of hooey, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the recordings, it's possible that they're around. I think if they were talking about an assassination plot on Kennedy, and because all these anti-Castro Cubans were trying to pin it on Castro, right, to prompt the invasion of Cuba. That was their whole,
Yeah.
they said that to their death. People still, Felix Rodriguez in a recent interview said that this year. That was their go-to line. But I think he might have had it, but I don't think Oswald was talking about killing the president in late July '63 or early. So I don't think they knew he didn't have the job at the TSBD. I don't think Kennedy's trip to Dallas was announced.
It had been announced, but no specifics.
But specifics, right? So
yeah, no Pacifics.
Pacifics. So that was very interesting. And Jim Garrison and Jim Alcock also interviewed Mr. Arnesto Rodriguez at the Berlitz School of Languages in February 1967. They said he was very cooperative. I'm sure he was. He says that he knows that Oswald knew about some camps across the lake, as Oswald had talked to Bernier about the camps. He said that Oswald came to the Berlitz School of Languages on one occasion and attempted to talk with him about the possibility of taking a language course and about Cuba in general. Oswald never returned. So,
I mean, it kind of makes sense, Joe, if you're thinking in the sense of, what Bannister and Ferry were up to, with these training these anti-Castro Cubans, at Lake Pontchartrain and everything. Oswald would want to be able to talk to him, or at least speak their language, and be able to talk to these Cuban refugees, even the anti-Castro exiles.
Right.
It's just interesting that he never really followed through with it. It's like plans changed at the beginning of August after all this shit went down,
Yeah. After probably mid-August, after August 9th, August 10th, and then a couple days later, the radio and TV. Something did change because, he ended up going back to Dallas, and possibly Mexico City. And something did change. That is true.
Hey, big DC is in the house.
DC, what's up? And we are going to hear a small snippet soon from the Dallas action, actually, sir, on a short piece about Emilio Rodriguez that he did with David Boylan and Larry Hancock. And as I was going to explain who Emilio was, I was listening to this and I was like, I can't explain it better. So this is a document that David Boylan found in the Malcolm Blunt archives.
I like that. Assassination Archives gift of Earl Goals.
Who is that, sir?
A very interesting Dallas-based reporter in the late 70s and 80s.
Okay.
You should be familiar. I've done many shows on Earl Goals' stories.
I just wanted you to explain it to the audience, sir, of course.
Yeah.
So this is Arnesto. Oswald, came in here asking about Cubans and Cuban training camps and the like. He offered to help. I told him I wouldn't be the party to help him, but there are some other Cubans here, and I directed him to Carlos Bernier. And that's the end of it. Later on, yeah, right. Later on, they had this fight with Carlos on Canal Street, and there was a debate on radio, and there was a tape made of it. And Carlos offered me a copy of the tape, which, of course, at that time didn't have any value other than the fact it was a debate. And I have a language lab. I made a copy of it, and I kept it for no reason at all. I don't know. And later, after the assassination, I remember that I had it. So maybe he was the one that produced that tape. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh. Huh. Because I have a language school, when Oswald came here, he had interest in finding out about the Cubans, how to make the right contacts. Someone had mentioned to him that I was Cuban, that I had friends among the Cuban colony here, and that I might know something. While he was here, he tried to show me how he spoke Russian. We tried to have a little conversation in Russian. My Russian is not fluent enough, so I was limited there. and that kind of thing. Tries to play it down. It was only a matter of 5-10 minutes, and he actually didn't even walk in my office. He stood in the outer door. He was by himself, plaid shirts. I remember that much. So then he asked him, was Rodriguez's office at 544 Camp Street at the time? No. I have nothing to do with Camp Street. My office is at 1208 St. Charles. Still is. As a matter of fact, I had recently moved here when Oswald came up. I know that Weisberg's book mentioned me in several places and even put me as heated chief of the CIA in this area and all that. All that's crap. But later, I was involved with the organization that was forming. I don't even remember the name, okay? But it was something about Cuba. I was involved in that like many Cubans here were, even Americans. And that office worked with the guy who was a local representative for the CRC. And he had an office in the Camp Street address in the same building, as well as another guy. I don't remember his name. Yeah, Bannister, he says. I knew all these guys because they were all involved with the Cubans. I met all those guys, but no other involvement, of course. But
Yes.
the most interesting part of this document is interview. Oswald, quote, comes through as self-educated and trying to use vocabulary that is self-acquired. He could have been used easily. He was eager to impress. Anyone who met him would tell you that he was going out of his way to impress whoever he met. It's pretty on point there, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty astute.
He seems to know more about Oswald than a 5-minute meeting outside his office, huh? And then he goes on to talk about Oswald's shooting abilities. The shooting in Dallas was tremendous, spectacular. I think he meant it was like a spectacular shot, job. And Oswald wasn't qualified for that and for what he had accomplished in the Marines.
So we got us a conspiracy theorist here, folks.
Yeah. And I don't think he's far off there. You know, we've covered before how Oswald was barely an average shooter, right?
Yeah. Real quick, Joe.
Sure.
Excuse me. Scott had this comment. The language school info is all about Spanish and Cuba, but nothing about learning Russian. Now, these Berlitz School of Languages were all over the place, I think. Kind of like a franchise like McDonald's, you know what I'm saying? And I think, didn't you say something about Ruth possibly doing Russian at the Dallas Berlitz School of Languages?
Yeah. So, because I didn't want to make this a 1-hour segment on my part, I cut the Ruth part out. But I think she took, I read this morning, 40 or 50 different times she went to take courses, right? So maybe an hour or two class. And one of the teachers who was also in the documents, and I think was interviewed by the Warren Commission, ended up going to her house to talk to her as well. So yeah, Ruth did take Russian at the Berlitz School. But it's just interesting that Arnesto knew a little bit of Russian to be able to have a conversation with Lee in Russian about it. And we mentioned before, brings up questions about Mexico City. Could he have been the one who impersonated Oswald on the call?
Yeah. Claude's got a question for Doug, which I can answer on his behalf. We actually recorded or tried to record one. We had a little technical difficulty, so the studio, the new Drop D podcast studio is under construction as we speak, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks, you will have a new Dallas action and quick hits. So just be patient with us a little bit longer while we do put the finishing touches on the new studio down there in Music City, USA. We'll be back before you know it, folks. Promise. Promise.
Yeah. And Moose, sorry, I'll make a slide on next time on the times that she took the Russian classes. But And south to west, dang, so everyone spoke Russian back in the day. No, I don't think so. I think Ernesto had a little bit of Russian knowledge, being part of the language school. I don't think it was common among the exiles whatsoever.
Comment of the night so far, Paul, Barroom Berlitz.
Love it. This is a funny one too. Mr. Spinks. America's Untold Grifters told me Ruth Payne studied really hot lesbianism in film at NYU. Huh? I can't tell if you're joking or not, but if so, that's funny.
Agreed about the school, but could this still be a ploy by LHO to get himself known by people while playing his part? I think it was, like he said, I think Lee was trying to find these anti-Castro Cubans who were active and trying to do something. And he may have heard some things about the Rodriguez brothers, and like Ernesto said, he told him to go see Bernier, and that's exactly what Oswald ended up doing. And of course, the training camps came up. He gave him this Marine training manual. He said, I'm very well versed in guerrilla tactics, yada yada yada. And then they see this guy handing out pro-Castro leaflets on the street, which is why the fracas started, the fight started.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. And I have a couple. I'm just going to get into Emilio really quickly, and I'm going to play something. But Doug said it's already built, but he's training to operate. New console, new room.
And Tiny, I don't know what photo you're talking about, dear.
Tango Down 66 is, I think, the best place.
Yeah, if anybody's got it, it's the website Tango Down 66.
DCM is dark complected man. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm just worried. I didn't know what photo she's referencing.
Neither do I. I was just answering Trey.
Yes.
Yeah. I know you know it. All right. So let me get back here. All right. So Emilio Rodriguez was part of the Stay Behind network in Cuba, worked for the CIA, convincing pro-Castro Cubans to defect. And later, when he was exfiltrated, went around U.S. and Mexico and tried to get other Cubans to join the cause. He worked closely with David Morales, Rip Robertson, David Atlee Phillips, Bob Moore, who was the deputy director of JOEB under Ted Shackley. And he is someone that is not talked about enough. And I know Doug will agree with that. Desmond Fitzgerald and many others. And this was, of course, actually, I'm going to start on the right here. He had one of the most closely guarded CIA cryptonyms and true names in the history of the case. This is from Mary Farrell. His cryptonym was AMIR1. And he was the one, Rob, who died at Dulles Airport. And then when he was taken to the doctor, who was coincidentally a CIA, probably domestic contact, recognized the names in his address book. And we're going to get into some of those names right now. I'm going to play this from my phone, actually. So this is from Dallas Action number 194 with David Boylan and Larry Hancock, of course, with Doug Campbell. And Rob, stop me if it sounds bad, okay?
Yes.
Here we go.
Important to Morales' structure and Morales' organization, right?
Right. He's a political action. In fact, he is such an important political action officer that they let him run operations all the way from New York to Mexico. And I think in the end, right, he's one of those guys who becomes such a long-term, significant CIA employee that they actually acknowledge his employment. That's virtually unknown. Emilio Rodriguez is like a super operative. He's just not your office staff guy. He is covert. He was covert in Cuba. David, Emilio doesn't get the credit he needs.
Hey, believe it or not, I ran across a big file on him. I believe it was in the new releases, like the 2017 and on, even independent from date. And I was blown away by the story because he was deep cover, had alias pocket litter, right? When he dropped dead at the airport, he dropped dead at Dulles Airport of a heart attack. And when you read the reports and the documents, it's amazing. There was an ER doctor who I guess was a CIA asset or part of domestic contacts or something, because he recognized the alias and contacted the CIA. Hey, one of our guys is here dead. And they ended up sending people out. I mean, it's a crazy story.
Had an address book, and when the emergency room doctor actually looked at it, he recognized a lot of the names. A lot of those names were significant in the address book. Rip, as in Rip Robertson, his name and address, and where he lived in Miami. Moore, as in Robert Moore, where he lived in Miami.
Bob Moore.
Yep. Dimmer, John Dimmer was, he took over for Shackley, headed JM Wave.
Wow.
David Phillips, Jake Esterline, you name it. It was like a who's who of the CIA in his address.
Wow. And on your screen now, ladies and gentlemen, is a screenshot or picture of some of his address entries. You could see the names that David Boylan mentioned here. It is really the who of the CIA. This is another page. You have Dick Helms, Desmond Fitzgerald, Jake Esterline. Rob, this guy was a serious dude.
Yeah, if you got those guys' numbers and addresses in your pocket, you're somebody.
Home numbers, not aliases. Home numbers.
Yeah, and true names.
Yeah, that says a lot. Being one of the most protected names, because he was going undercover. Obviously, when he was in Cuba, he was in the Stay Behind network with like Tony Sforza. That Stay Behind network was run by David Morales. And, you know, I think about this a lot, Rob, because we go through a lot of names, right? Like the popular names that everyone talks about. But as I continue my study journey in this subject, I think probably and ironically, it was a bunch of people that no one really talks about. You know, like the middle echelon type of exiles. I mean, Emilio Rodriguez wasn't really discovered, I think, until 5-6 years ago by David Boylan. And if you guys know David Boylan, he's on another level in terms of the Cuban exiles and all this stuff. I mean, he knows I can't keep up.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
He's really smart. And I met him last year at Lancer. And he's going to be there again this year. So I know he talked about them at his presentation last year, because my first notes in my Lancer notebook are of the Rodriguez brothers, coincidentally. But yeah, these two guys. So one more thing. So you have Ernesto, who comes into contact with Oswald. Do you think he tells his brother Emilio, who's doing counterintelligence?
Probably.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, his mom knows, so why wouldn't his brother?
Yeah, it's exactly right. And that was a mother-in-law, I think it was.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it said mother-in-law. So that's even more to your point, right? If he's telling his mother-in-law, of course he's telling his brother. So,
yeah, like Doug says, this guy was a Cuban James Bond, posthumously awarded the CIA's top medal, and his little brother was all over LHO like Silk City on chicken wings. Damn Skippy.
I might take over comment of the night.
It may have nudged.
But yeah, guys, the Dallas action, you can find it on a lot of podcast platforms. Episode 194, an amazing conversation with Doug, Boylan, and Hancock. And I highly recommend
definitely check it out.
And I think that's it for me, sir.
All right. Well, we got a little bit of breaking news this week, Joe.
Breaking news.
Hold on. Breaking news. Okay. So apparently, a new home video footage of the limo speeding to Parkland has been unearthed. And we have it here for you tonight, folks. So without further ado, let's hop on the Stemmons Freeway and take a look, shall we?
Let's do it.
It was a day that changed America forever. November 22nd, 1963, Dallas, Texas. The motorcade of President John F. Kennedy makes its way through the city, capturing the hopes and dreams of a nation. But now, over 60 years later, an extraordinary discovery brings us a fresh perspective. This rare, never-before-seen 8mm color film reveals a new angle of history, picking up moments after the Zapruder film. Secret Service agent Clint Hill clings to the back of the limousine, shielding First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, draped over her stricken husband in the...
Hold on. I think we had technical difficulties with that clip. Hold on. Take two.
It was a day that changed America forever. November 22nd, 1963, Dallas, Texas. The motorcade of President John F. Kennedy makes its way through the city, capturing the hopes and dreams of a nation. But now, over 60 years later, an extraordinary discovery brings us a fresh perspective. This rare, never-before-seen 8mm color film reveals a new angle of history, picking up moments after the Zapruder film. Secret Service agent Clint Hill clings to the back of the limousine, shielding First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, draped over her stricken husband in that unforgettable pink suit. The car reaches speeds of 80 miles per hour, and in a desperate moment, Hill is said to have turned to the follow-up car and signals a grim thumbs down, a silent gesture of despair. Soon to be featured in an upcoming auction, this footage stands as a powerful reminder of that dark day in American history, offering us one more piece of the puzzle, a rare glimpse into the moments that followed, now brought to light for the world to see.
Breaking news. Breaking news. I didn't really see any moving footage there, Joe. It's mostly stills, or maybe they're holding it back for the auction.
Yes. So allegedly, I don't know who came up with this film. There's been a couple articles about it, but
Hey, your volume's low.
Can you hear me now?
No, still low.
How about now?
Still low.
Guys, is it low for me? I haven't touched a thing.
Is it just me or folks in the chat?
Probably is when you did the video.
Sounds good here. Okay, as long as y'all can hear him, okay.
Yeah, so Rob, I'm thinking they're probably saving the full movie for the auction. I think what it shows is the motorcade speeding down the Stemmons Freeway, and you have Clint Hill, who has since climbed from the back bumper of the car to above, kind of kneeling with kind of his foot out over the back seat of the car, where Jackie Kennedy is laying over Jack at that point, who's completely humped over and probably, I think he might have been alive at Parkland, like they said, but he was pretty much dead when that bullet hit him, if not immediately.
Yeah, I would think so. With the giant hole in the back of your head, you're probably not good.
Yeah. So I was thinking, and this has been a topic. Does this have any evidentiary value? And I think it was Jefferson Morley that tweeted or wrote something that said, or someone that works with his site, that maybe they could enhance it to see if the bullet hole is visible, and maybe the original, not the stills, could be enhanced in a way. I'm not that optimistic based on the quality that we saw that we're going to get any of that. It is very.
Maybe it was created by AI, Joe.
Yeah, maybe I could do it. But I think the most positive thing of this is there are still videos out there that we haven't seen, public hasn't seen.
Yep, this is hope upon hope. I mean, and we just said this recently on the show that hey, a home movie could come out at any time and change everybody's perspective. It's not this one.
No.
But it could be the next one or the one after that, because these things will continue to be found as these older folks pass away and their kids start going through all their stuff in the attic.
Exactly.
And finding these film canisters marked, 11, 22, 63, or,
Yep. Oh, for sure. You took the words out of my mouth. That is that, this generation, they're 80s, 90s, that's some of the slim hope that is left, that maybe some other videos that are more relevant surface. And you never know, Rob. You never know.
You never know. You don't never know.
You don't never know.
All right. So let's get into some discharge talk, Joe.
Yes, let's do it. And Perpetual Concepts, yes, we need the Martin film director's cut as well. I agree. Where was James Herbert Martin during the 11/22? I don't know.
I think John T. Martin's who he's referring to, but
and Claude was the blob at the side of the limo where JFK was sitting. I believe that's Clint Hill's foot. I believe it is, or that's what people say it is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too concerned with that, because what at the end of the day could a black blob mean? The photography at that time, the motorcade going at 80 miles an hour, which it was at that point. So that's it, sir. Pray continue.
Okay. So let's get into a little discharge conversation, shall we, Joe? We all know about Lee Harvey Oswald's discharge problems. He was given an honorable hardship discharge in 1959 because of his mother's injuries. He apparently needed to take care of her, and these discharges were not given away willy-nilly. They took the time to investigate the claims and rarely ever approved them, but Oswald's got approved.
Before the term is up, you mean, of their enlistment?
Correct. An early discharge. Yeah. So, the story goes, Oswald got this early discharge. He was discharged on 9/11, 1959, and he proceeded to go home, to his mother's house. And instead of taking care of his mother or, trying to help her out in any way, 3 days later, he's on a freighter, heading for his ultimate goal of Russia. So we're going to take a look at the backstory about this whole incident with the candy jar, what Marguerite said, what the Marines said, and what Oswald did, and what the so the official story goes something like this. So on July the 8th, 1959, Marguerite Oswald received a special delivery letter from her son. It said, now at this time he's still in the Marine Corps, I received your letter and was very unhappy to hear of your troubles. I'm trying to secure an early hardship discharge in order to help you. Such a discharge is only rarely given. The Red Cross cannot give you funds of any kind. They can only give you me, and only if you make the right impression on them. Only if they know you cannot and are not receiving help from any other kin, and only if they know you are in dire need right now. Please tell them I will be able to secure a good job, as this is important. Also, send me the names of some actual businesses that I may write them and get an acceptance letter for a job. This last point is not required, but it would help my case for a hardship discharge if and when I bring it before my commanding officer. Just inform them that I have been your only source of income. Now, Marguerite Oswald did have 2 other sons in the armed forces at this point. And I believe Robert is out already, and married and all that jazz. And I'm sure, Robert and John as well were giving Marguerite money at this point to get by.
Helping in some sense, sure.
Yeah. Now, Marguerite said that she had not received allotment payments from her son during the almost 3 years that he had been in the Marines. So she's saying that Oswald never gave her any money the whole time that he was in the Marine Corps, which I find strange. In early September, Oswald returned briefly to Fort Worth, and he left the city after 3 days without disclosing his destination. She had seen a passport he had obtained in California, listing his occupation as the export-import business. Okay, so what this signifies is, folks, Oswald obtained this passport in California, and he put on there his occupation is that he's in the import-export business. So his motive for getting out of the Marine Corps was never to go home and help his mother. He always had an ulterior motive. And he got granted an early hardship discharge from the Marine Corps. So this is how these conspiracy theories start. Because does it make sense that the Marines would let him out early for the incident that I'm about to tell you about? They supposedly investigated this thing and gave him this early discharge. But yet he proceeded, while he was still in California, to get a passport and list his occupation as a export-import businessman. So from New Orleans on September the 18th, he wrote that he was about to do something his mother might not understand. On October 31st, 1959, Fort Worth newspapers carried news that Oswald had applied in Moscow for Soviet citizenship. Mrs. Oswald, now apparently flush with cash, sent a $20 personal check to the Metropole Hotel in Moscow on December 18th, 1959. She received the check back with a note written on a scrap of paper. "I can't use this check, of course," it said. "Please put a $20 bill in an envelope and send it to me. I'm also short of cash and need the rest. Love, Lee." Mrs. Oswald said that she had sent a $20 foreign money order to the Metropole and also a $20 United States bill. Now, financially, Joe, we can time this by 10, right?
Yes, sir.
So
$200.
So she basically sent Lee $400 because she sent him a $20 bill and a $20 foreign money order. So that's $400 in today's money.
Yeah.
From a woman who's not working, okay,
Yeah.
and destitute, right?
Yeah. Now, did he kind of implied that he wasn't able to cash the check?
Yeah. Yeah, they wouldn't cash the check.
Yeah. Well,
in Russia from there.
Yeah, from a United States bank. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't blame.
So after 2.5 months, both the money order and the $20 bill were returned to Marguerite with a note inside that said that the Hotel Metropole could not locate her son. So apparently by this time, Oswald had moved, or they just didn't look and just returned to sender.
Yeah.
Who knows what the truth is about that?
Yeah.
But let's get into this whole candy incident, Joe.
Let's do it.
Now, this whole incident took place. Now, you remember what I was reading you from. Oswald got discharged September the 11th. It's easy to remember. 9/11, 1959. This incident occurred, Joe, on December the 5th, 1958 in Fort Worth, Texas.
Wow.
Now, I've got a handwritten notice of inquiry and claim for compensation for basically it's a workman's comp thing from Marguerite Oswald to the King Candy Company, who she was working for apparently. And it's kind of hard to read, but I will I will try my best. She says, I was getting candy from a storeroom and I reach up to get a carton from a shelf. A number of signs placed on top of the carton fell and hit me in the face and head, and the carton itself may have hit me. I was knocked to the floor and sustained permanent injuries to my head, neck, and face, which have totally disabled me up to the present time.
Permanent. Interesting.
So she's Trey coming through in a clutch.
Yes. Thank you so much, Trey. I didn't want to interrupt you, Rob, but
there we go.
Thank you.
Yes,
You're the man, Trey.
It's like sweet Skittles in my mouth. So basically, it wasn't a candy jar that smacked her in the face. It wasn't even a box of candy or a piece of candy. Apparently, there was a couple of cardboard signs on top of a box that she reached up for when she grabbed the box and pulled it down. These cardboard signs pelted her in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Because she doesn't even say. She said, I may have been hit in the face by the carton itself, but she doesn't say that she did.
Yeah, and that might give you a scratch if it falls in the exact right way, that it kind of grazes your cheek or something. I'm playing devil's advocate here, of course. But I don't see how that results in permanent damage.
Yeah, to your head, neck, and face.
Yeah.
Permanent damage, leaving me totally disabled up until this present time. I mean, this is as bogus a claim as you can get.
Yep. And almost a year before, right? 10 months before or something like that.
Yeah, this happened December 5th, 1958. Okay, and I have the of course we'll go through the timeline of these injuries, Joe. And so the King Candy Company is insured by the Liberty Insurance Company of Texas. And they're the ones dealing with notice of injury and claims for compensation.
What company?
The King Candy Company.
You said Liberty.
That's Liberty Insurance Company of Texas. It deals with their workman's comp claims. They pay,
Any connection to Liberty Lobby?
Fuckity uity, Joey. And they basically are saying that the notice of injury and claim for compensation has been received in accordance with your wishes. The board will take no further action unless requested to do so. For their information, we are notifying the insurance carrier that the claim has been filed, blah, blah, blah. And this happened on December 5th. So she filed the claim. King Candy Company ran it through their insurance company, Workman's Comp. December 5th. December 5th, all on the same day. So they're on it, bud. They're on it.
Wow.
So then we have a letter from the Goldberg Clinic in Fort Worth, Texas. And this is in January 26th, 1959.
All right. Almost 2 months. Almost 2 months after the incident, a little less.
Yeah. Then this is a letter, to the Liberty Insurance Company of Texas regarding Marguerite Oswald, employee, King Candy Company. Dear sirs, the above named patient came to see us on December 6th, 1958. So the day after the incident. So it must have not been, an emergency or anything. Stating that on December the 5th, she reached up to get some jars of candy while working for King Candy Company, and a carton of candy fell on her face and nose. So now the signs are gone.
Yeah, now it's
and
the
we have
nose.
a carton of candy falling on her face and nose, bopping, bop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Examination revealed a small laceration, Joe, of the bridge of her nose with swelling, and also swelling of the turbinates. I think that's your nostrils. I think. Correct me if I'm not correct, Chad.
Yeah, I can't.
An x-ray of the nose was negative for a fracture or break, and the patient was given biomycin, nasal decongestive, and medication for pain. The patient returned for an office visit on December the 8th and then again December 20th or 29th, at which time she complained of headaches and a pain in her neck.
Oh, she's milking it, huh?
Her cervical spine was x-rayed, which revealed no fracture or abnormal pathology. We have not seen the patient since the aforementioned date and we presume that she is now recovered. It is my opinion that there is no partial or permanent disability. Sincerely, Morton Goldberg, MD. Okay?
Okay.
So, hallelujah. She's healed. Okay. But wait, there's more.
Okay.
April 30th. I guess old Morton Goldberg didn't work for Marguerite, so she's going to go see another doctor, Joe.
April 30th. So that's what, like 4 or 5 months after her last appointment in end of December,
Yeah.
29th? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep track here.
Yeah. So Marguerite has this dude, William McKinney, MD, write a letter to the Liberty Insurance Company. Dear sirs, Mrs. Marguerite Oswald was referred to me by another doctor named L.L. Hamilton on the 19th of April, 1959. So there was another doctor before this doctor. He says, I examined this patient and found no abnormal neurological signs. I felt that her difficulty was primarily a auxiliary sinusitis on the right. I saw no evidence of any definite neurological involvement. Okay, so she's got a sinus infection. I mean, I don't know what sinusitis is. I'm guessing it's a sinus infection. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Paula. You're the best.
So then, Joe, on May 13th, if at first you don't succeed, Joe, you try again.
Yeah, about 2 weeks after meeting with the McKinsey doctor.
Yeah, I guess she didn't like McKinsey very much. So now she's going back to L.L. Hamilton, Lester Hamilton, of the Hamilton Everett Clinic in Fort Worth, Texas. She has them write a letter, an open letter, to whom it may concern, May 13th, 1959. Mrs. Marguerite Oswald came to us on February 20th, 1959, with a history of having been struck in the right side of her face. Now it's falling boxes, Joe. Falling boxes, more plural. She stated that she later had an abscess on the right side of her face, which was treated by Dr. J. Harris with 10 shots of penicillin. So there's another doctor. I think we're up to 4 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But was it infected that she needed antibiotics?
Dude, I think 10 shots of penicillin is enough to cure syphilis.
Maybe that's what she was trying to cure.
I don't know. She also stated that she had been given first aid by Dr. Hardwick just after the accident. So there's number 5. She stated that she had a heavy feeling in her head, a soreness in her neck, and her jaw was now not working properly. All right.
So the boxes hit her head, then her nose, then her jaw.
Yeah, apparently it went from cardboard boxes and cardboard signs to possibly one box, maybe smack her in the face, to now multiple boxes assaulting her in the face.
Okay.
Examination revealed a partially limited motion of the right temporomandibular joint with a popping noise upon movement. But people have that, their joints pop,
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress.
Your neck could do that too? Like your neck could crack? Right?
Yeah. There was also considerable tenderness in the neck while I was touching her, and also a grating sound upon movement of her cervix, or her cervical area, which I don't understand because nothing hit her in the back.
Unless it was like a magic bullet type of box where it went like
the magic box theory. Here we are, folks.
Yes.
She was given osteopathic manipulation, which is not as sexual as it sounds, I'm pretty sure. And shit, man. Medcosonulator treatment, which is an ultrasound and muscle stimulation. She was seen and treated on February 20th, 21st, 23rd, 25th, 27th, 28th, March 2nd, March 4th, March 6th, March 9th. And on March 12th, she stated that she had had a sharp shooting pain in her right temple area for 3 days.
59?
Yeah.
So wait. Hold on.
Yes.
These weren't, we had like a gap from like, what was it, end of December to like end of April. So is this like backdated almost? Did you find a doctor that would play ball?
I told you this letter was written on May the 13th by Lester Hamilton, the guy who referred her to the other doctor, right?
McKinsey? I don't know.
So now we're kind of like going back in time via this letter, apparently. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Neither do I. I'm just
okay. So the treatments were continued on March 12th, 16th, 18th, and 20th, with the physiotherapy being used over the temple and face area. So basically, they were massaging her temples, trying to get the sharp pain to go away. And she was going back, it seems like every 2 or 3 days. Every 2 or 3 days.
For a massage, essentially.
Yeah. On March 23rd, we packed and irrigated the sinuses and obtained yellow pus. Sorry. Oh, Lord.
Lordy.
In the washings, sinus irrigations were given on March 23rd, 25th, 27th, 30th, April 1st, 2nd, 4th, 6th, 9th, and 11th. So they were really like all up in her nose business. I'm not sure what a sinus irrigation consists of, Joe, but it can't be fun.
No.
Especially not when yellow pus is involved. Or as we call it, snot. But yeah, snot. On April 13th, she was referred to Dr. W.W. McKinney. And since I had mentioned that I might want her to see an EENT doctor, which is eyes, ears, nose, and throat, she also made an appointment for herself and saw Dr. J.C. Baker. So now we're up to what, 6? 6 doctors? J.C. Baker. Dr. McKinney felt that she had a maxillary sinusitis and suggested continued sinus irrigations.
Or they just all got tired of her.
They suck all the snot out of her head.
Yeah.
Like every day or 2 or 3. I mean, this is...
I think they got tired of her, the doctors. They're just
You
like,
think?
I'm gonna send you off to pawn you off to this guy so you don't have to deal with your BS anymore type of thing.
God, I hope this thing makes a short about snot when we get done. Okay.
Probably will, since you went.
I hope it does. AI, if you're listening, make us a short about snot, what I've been talking about here. That'd be great. Thank you. Or pus. So yeah, she was referred to this dude. Dr. Baker felt the sinuses were clear. Well, I guess so. They should be if she's got them sucked out like every freaking day for 2 months. Both doctors mentioned the possibility of involvement of the maxillary diversion of the 5th cranial nerve. It was our feeling that she had a neuralgia or a neuritis or neuritis of this nerve, and that the sinuses were clear, for we had ceased getting pus upon irrigation. We gave her some B12 injections and prescribed B12 and Decadron orally and continued the mediosonilator treatments. On May 9th, 1959, we referred her to the X-ray department of the Fort Worth Osteopathic Hospital for pan-sinus X-rays, since it appeared to us that the right frontal sinus trans-illuminated poorly. The X-rays, Joe, guess what?
What?
They showed no sinus infection whatsoever. Imagine that.
That's because they had already irrigated everything wrong.
Yes, they already sucked all the snot out of her head.
Oh, man.
You know, with those baby snot suckers. Have you ever seen those things? They're like the little bulbs, and you stick them up your nose, and
I have seen
sucks all the boogers out of the baby's head.
I have seen them, yeah.
Yes, they're great and disgusting.
They're for ears too, right?
I don't know. Never used it for that. At present, Mrs. Oswald complains of a tightness and a soreness in the left side of the face and temple area.
Oh my God.
We feel she has neuralgia or neuritis of this portion of the 5th cranial nerve, which is improving with the osteopathic treatment and physiotherapy, as mentioned above. Today, she reports that pain had been relatively absent for several days, but it is now back. The Medcosonilator relieves pain for a considerable time. We intend to treat her daily for a time in order to see if we can maintain a relief of pain. It is our opinion that this condition should clear up within the next few weeks and leave no residual impairment. Sincerely, Lester L. Hamilton. So they've been working on this woman for 6 months now, but the doctor is confident that it's all going to be cleared up in a couple of days. We're on the verge of a breakthrough here, folks.
Oh man,
May 26th.
This is
A
crazy.
letter to the Liberty Insurance Company of Texas from Dr. Morton Goldberg again. I guess Mort's back in the picture. Dear sirs, Mrs. Oswald reported to this office on May 27th, 1959 for a re-evaluation of her alleged, which is an interesting word that he uses, injury on December 5th, 1958.
Very interesting word.
Yeah. Since her last visit on December 29th to me, she has sought various medical attentions, including a consultation with doctors McKinney and Hamilton, among others. She states that she has had intense periodic pain in the right side of her face, her nose, and her right scalp area since her accident. So now her scalp, her hair,
Oh man,
right here. Now she got a boo-boo on her head now, Joe. Okay.
As an expert in scars, I don't think you'd still have that after 6 months.
You think?
Yeah.
On occasion, the right side of her face, adjacent to her nose, becomes swollen, and a white, thick discharge drains from her nose.
Now it's white.
Yeah.
It was yellow before.
Apparently that's brain matter. They done sucked her shit so hard out of her nose.
Oh,
now they're
man.
pulling gray matter out of her.
Well, that can make sense in some aspects regarding.
Or
work.
she's been snorting some really good cocaine, my friend. All right. During the course of this interview, she was very verbose and cried intermittently. Was disappointed that more could not be done to alleviate her pain and find the reason for her condition. She attempted to correlate her pain with anatomic relations of the area of her injury, which were not in accordance with true anatomic positions, whatever the fuck that means. Her blood pressure was 120/80. Her temperature was normal. Pulse was normal. There's no fullness of her face. Nose was normal. And as was the mucous membrane of both nostrils. There was no postnasal discharge of mucus or pus. Her throat looked normal. Chest, heart, and lungs were all normal. Abdomen was normal, as with her extremities. Her complete blood count was normal. X-rays of all nasal accessory sinuses were normal. X-ray of her nose was normal. X-ray of her cervical spine was normal. It is my impression that this patient, now listen here, Joe, has a tremendous psychic overlay to her entire condition. That a feeling of insecurity about her failure to hold a job or obtain one are the main reasons for perpetuation of her pain. I could find no organic changes that could account for her symptoms. Sincerely, Morton Goldberg, MD. So now he's calling her out saying it's all in her head because she doesn't want to work. Shocker.
Yeah, he is.
Everything is normal, folks.
He is over it at this point, Mr. Goldberg.
Now, if the Marine Corps invested this like they said they did, and they had a hold of this document that basically says that she's fine, it's just she doesn't want to work, they would not have given Oswald a early hardship discharge. You think? So why did they? Is this all some sort of crazy ruse just to get him out of the Marine Corps and over to Russia by a certain time? This is what it sounded like to me.
I think so. I mean, I'm not sure how you could really come to another logical conclusion. We know Lee was very interested in getting Marxist material delivered and talking about Marxism and stuff like that. So, what I'm trying to figure out is, in terms of the false defector program, was Lee witting or unwitting? Like, was Lee just okay? Like the forces, the CIA.
I think he had to be witting because he had that Freudian slip in New Orleans where he said he was under the protection of the State Department while he was in Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man.
Oh, I think so. And if you consider his route into Russia, that Helsinki passage, for sure, and even the Red Cross giving him aid when he was in Russia.
All right, so now things start to get ugly, Joe.
Wait, they're not ugly already?
No, it gets worse.
Oh man.
This is a letter from John Laird of the firm Spurlock, Shatman, and Jacobs, attorneys for claimant Marguerite Oswald versus the King Candy Company.
So she sued, or is this like a work comp?
No, she's suing, bud. Okay. It says, gentlemen, the firm of Spurlock, Shatman, and Jacobs of Fort Worth, Texas, has been employed to represent the above named claimant in her claim for compensation for injuries sustained in the course of her employment for the above named employer. Notice of injury and claim for compensation have been submitted by the claimant. All payment of compensation has been stopped, the last check having been received May 20th, 1959. Medical treatment has been discontinued, although the claimant is still disabled. We shall appreciate having this claim set for hearing at the earliest possible date. This is on June 5th, 1959. So apparently, King Candy stopped paying her workman's comp claim at the advice of Dr. Goldberg, or what Goldstein, or whatever the hell his name was.
I would too if I was that company.
Yeah. So this is June 10th, 1959. You are hereby notified that payment of compensation has been suspended or stopped in the above numbered and styled claim, and that the date of the issuance of the last draft of other evidence of payment is the 19th day of May, 1959, which paid compensation from May 14th to May 19th. The reason payment has been suspended or stopped is as follows. The claimant's physician reports that she is able to work. She's able to work. We read that. Total amount of compensation paid to her, okay, for these past 6 months, they paid her out $583.80. That is a weekly rate paid of $29.49, which is roughly like workman's comp is either half or 60% of your salary.
Yeah.
So times that by 10, she got almost $6,000 in 6 months.
Yeah, maybe even a little more, Rob, because the times 10 is by 63 numbers, and we're talking 59. So
yeah, true.
So probably more than $6,000 total that she's been paid out in like 6 months ish, right?
This is compensation paid from 12/6/58 to 12/8/58, 12/11/58 to 12/12/58, 12/27/58 to 12/29/58, and it goes on listing all these things.
Yeah, weekly.
Yeah. Now this is a letter from the Liberty Insurance Company of Texas, and this is to the Honorable Industrial Accident Board, Walton Building, Austin, Texas, concerning employee Marguerite Oswald versus the King Candy Company insured by Liberty Insurance. Now this is July 14th, 1959, Joe. Gentlemen, we paid 20 weeks compensation for a total of $583.80, along with $365.20 of her medical bills. In support of our position that there is no permanent injury, we attach the report of Dr. Morton Goldberg under date of May 28th and January 26th, 1959. And in addition thereto, we are attaching the report of Dr. Hamilton showing also no permanent injury. We are taking the position that we have discharged all responsibility and decline further recovery compensation here to forthwith or something.
Yeah.
In this weird old language.
I don't blame them. I mean, how many dozens of appointments did they pay for? How many thousands of dollars did they pay out? Now they have a recommendation from the doctor, one of the most consistent doctors she had, or up there,
Right.
that there's no permanent damage. So, like as any company would do, they're gonna not pay workers' comp anymore. Sure. It's logical from the corporate standpoint, for sure.
Yeah. So now let's get into the Oswald Marine side of things. Okay. So the earliest thing I could find, Joe, I don't know. We'll just go through the dates here. This is from June. Wait a minute. That's from June 5th, 1963. Oh, this is where he's complaining about his discharge. They were writing him a letter back. This is from the commander of the Navy Discharge Review Board. Dear Mr. Oswald, the review of your discharge. Now, I find this interesting, Joe. It's listing him as living in Fort Worth, Texas. He's using his mom's address. Mercedes Street in Fort Worth, June 5th, 1963. We know he was in New Orleans, so this is weird. But okay. Dear Mr. Oswald, the review of your discharge from the Marine Corps has not yet been concluded. That is due in part to the unusual circumstances surrounding your separation. It is hoped that consideration of your case, including review of the Discharge Review Board's findings by the Secretary of the Navy, will be completed sometime this summer. Sincerely yours, E.T. Carson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what this is all about, okay, so Oswald did get his honorable early discharge, hardship discharge, okay? But when the Marine Corps found out that he went to Russia, he defected to Russia and basically renounced his citizenship, even though he didn't legally do it. They changed his discharge to dishonorable, right? And a lot of people think that the reason was because he did exactly that. He, what's the word I'm looking for? Defected to Russia and renounced his U.S. citizenship. But they said that the reason that they changed it is because they basically said, well, you can do whatever you want. You're an American citizen. You can live where you want. But basically that he talked crap about America and it looked bad on the Marine Corps because he was a former Marine. And that's why they changed it to a dishonorable discharge. Right?
Yeah. And, it would look really, even shadier on the military's part if they kept it as honorable after he defected, right? It's almost like they're kind of, I don't want to say saving
they're forced
face,
to do
but,
something.
Yeah. And of course, was the Secretary of the Navy at that time John Connolly?
No.
Okay.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, I heard that at some point. He would have probably
I don't
been 63.
He wasn't
Maybe
at the time of the assassination.
Yeah, maybe it was earlier.
Now, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but Oswald did write them this letter, which prompted the response that I just read you. And this is in the Warren Commission exhibits. It's Exhibit 780 if you'd like to go read it. But it is a handwritten letter. It's probably 5 or 6 pages long. But it starts out like this. A review of my file will show that a recommendation to separate me from the Marine Corps Reserve was concurred in by a board of officers in Illinois, to become effective September 13, 1960, or 1 year and 2 days from the time I was honorably discharged from active duty. Referral of my case to this board was promised on the, pardon me, I am reading Lee Harvey Oswald's cursive handwriting here. Was promised on the something fast that I had renounced my American citizenship with intent to become a permanent citizen of the Soviet Union Socialist Republic. Since this was the sole reason I was separated from the Marine Corps Reserve and summarily given an undesirable discharge, I do hereby request that the board does convene to review this case. This is a case which comes under the heading something 15-E747, i.e. a discharge improperly issued. Now, look, Oswald is not this smart, folks, okay, to write this 5-page letter citing all this stuff. He's citing like case numbers and things like this, where he's trying to strong arm them into changing his discharge. Now,
trying to talk about like legal precedent and things like that, right?
Right. Now, we all know our favorite guy down in New Orleans, Dean Andrews, the right ta-ta, but the wrong ho-ho, right?
Of course.
He told us that Lee Harvey Oswald came to see him in May or June of 63. And the reason he did this is because, and he actually said Oswald visited his office on 3 separate occasions and expressed concern about, number 1, his citizenship status, number 2, his wife's citizenship status, and number 3, his undesirable discharge from the Marine Corps, which he claimed had made it possible to obtain suitable employment. Mr. Andrews said that Oswald was accompanied by a total of approximately 5 different people during the 3 visits. He said that he knew 2 of the subjects by sight, and that on 2 occasions he was accompanied by a young man of Mexican extraction, not Cuban, whom he did not know. He said he believed that all Oswald's companions were homosexuals who possibly frequent the Gaslight Bar in the French Quarter, where such individuals congregate. He said Oswald was supposed to furnish him $20 and also his Marine Corps serial number in order to obtain copies of pertinent records from the Marine Corps. He said that Oswald did not comply and that he did not establish a file on him or receive a fee. But what if he did, Joe? This letter that he wrote to the review board, it's 5 or 6 pages long, citing all these cases, sounds a hell of a lot like somebody helped him write that. Okay? Oswald not that smart.
Probably a lawyer.
And I mean, these pages, Joe, are extensive. I would encourage everybody to go check out Commission Exhibit 780. And it's page after page of handwritten, no mistakes, all cursive, very neatly written. Okay? And you know how sometimes Oswald's a horrible speller?
Yes, I'm very familiar. Yeah.
Or English. That does not sound like something he wrote at all.
No misspellings there?
Very few.
Okay.
Very few. Very interesting stuff there.
Yeah. Very interesting. And just wanted to say, Paula Jane Connolly was the Secretary of the Navy in 1961, the full year. And Mr. Paul Cummins, hi Paul. Connolly was hired for secretary because he could type really fast.
And he had nice legs.
I don't think Oswald got back to like 62, right? So
correct.
Yeah. Because, you know, there was always that theory that Lee was actually shooting at Connolly because he denied the discharge, and the
Right.
timing just doesn't make sense here.
It doesn't jive.
No.
So on June 6th, 1962, this E.T. Carson, who's the commander, Secretary of the Navy Discharge Review Board, he's telling Oswald, hey, your application for the review of your discharge was received on the 20th of June. And he's writing this letter to Oswald August 6th, 1962. So this is almost, a couple months after Oswald is back in the country. He's on it. He's on this.
Mm-hmm.
That letter gets written and sent. And even, I don't know, like his cursive is better than his printing, which doesn't seem correct. I don't know if you can see that envelope.
Yes. Yep. I believe. Yep. I can.
Yeah. Navy Discharge Review Board, Washington 25 DC, Joe. Remember that? Washington 25 DC?
Oh, of course I do. I do. And, Bungled, who I think we're missing, will know about that as well.
Yep. This was mailed August 1st from Fort Worth, 1962, Joe. It says, Dear Sirs, in regard to my urgent request for a hearing by the quote unquote board of review of my discharge, I filled in a DD form 293 and sent it in early July. Please notify me of action taken in regard to my request. Sincerely, Lee Oswald. So apparently he knows what forms to fill out to request this review. I mean, this is something he's getting help with doing, folks.
I think so. Yeah.
For sure. So what is this? This is from July 10th, 1963. And these are the findings of the Navy Discharge Review Board, Joe. In accordance with Section 301 of reference case, the Navy Discharge Review Board has reviewed the discharge given to the subjected individual. This date of review was July 10th, 1963. The Secretary of the Navy has reviewed the proceedings of the board and taken action as indicated. No change. That's the board decision. The Secretary of the Navy action approved the no change, and the effect was no change. This letter and enclosures should be placed with subject's records. Enclosures listed above are forwarded to the appropriate disposition. Return receipt is requested. And that's from a D.W. Bowman of the Department of the Navy. And they sent Lee Oswald this letter on July 25th, 1963 that said, Dear Mr. Oswald, the review of your discharge has been completed in accordance with the regulations governing the procedures of the board. Careful consideration was given to the evidence presented on your behalf, as well as that contained in your official records. The Secretary of the Navy has received the proceedings of the board. It is the decision that no change, correction, or modification is warranted in your dishonorable discharge. Sincerely yours, D.W. Bowman, Captain, President of the Navy Discharge Review Board. Bing, bang, boom, bitch. No change. Here's why no change. Okay. All right, this is very small and hard to read here, so bear with me. Review. This is July 19th, 1960. I guess this is when they changed it. It says something planning officer recommended that PET, and that term for some reason refers to Lee Harvey Oswald. Recommend PET be discharged by reason of unfitness based on reliable information which indicated that PET had renounced his U.S. citizenship with the intention of becoming a permanent citizen of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. PET's case was heard in absentia by the board, retention and desirability board, who recommend discharge by reason of unfitness. PET was notified by certified mail that a board would convene to determine his fitness and afforded him his rights. The correspondence was returned unopened. The findings, opinions, and recommendations of the board were approved by something on 9 of August 1960 and forwarded to the CMC for final determination. CMC approved and directed the discharge to be changed to undesirable. Yeah. So we're getting there, folks. We're getting there. And this is from October 24th, 56, I think. No, that's when he enlisted. Sorry. There is no date on this. Oh, yeah, July 10th, 63. Petitioner requests recommendation for re-enlistment, review, or case and appropriate action. He submitted a brief which essentially states that his discharge was improperly issued. Also included was PET's statement and 2 letters from the U.S. Embassy, Moscow. As requested by PET, his lengthy statement was read to the board in its entirety. It contained his contention that the undesirable discharge board found against him primarily on the grounds that he went to the USSR and allegedly renounced his U.S. Citizenship to become a citizen of that country. Mm-hmm. PET denied this allegation and claimed that since he had a choice of residence as an American citizen, such action could not be judged as being fair or impartial. He further stated that he did not violate any U.S. laws by his actions and quoted in part an American Embassy Moscow letter which stated, and I quote, "Meanwhile, your continued retention of your present Soviet passport or an extension thereof does not prejudice in any way your claim to American citizenship," unquote. So this was their response to that. They went through all of his stuff that apparently that he did while he was in the Marine Corps. April 11th, 1958, he violated a lawful general order by having in his possession a privately owned weapon that was not registered, sent as something for 20 days and forfeit $25 per month for 2 months and reduced to private. Confinement suspended for 6 months, but vacated on 27 June 58. Wrongfully used provoking words to a staff NCO, found guilty. Assaulting a staff NCO, found not guilty. Sent as APPR, CNL for 28 days and forfeit $55 per month for 1 month. 17 October 58. JAG found that injury received by PET on 27 October 57 as a result of an accidental discharge of a weapon was in fact incurred in the line of duty and not a result of misconduct. Upon opening his locker, a .22 pistol fell to the floor and discharged, wounding Pett in the left elbow.
We covered that before, Rob. I think it was in the Philippines or Indonesia. I thought it hit Oswald's kind of shoulder or grazed him. It wasn't like a real gunshot.
Yeah, but apparently it happened. They said it was incurred in the line of duty and not a result of misconduct.
That's interesting.
Pett, and then on let's see, 3 March 59, he was promoted back to private first class. And August 17th, 59, Pett submitted a request for a dependency discharge by reason of hardship on the part of his mother. Pett appeared before the Hardship Dependency Discharge Board, who recommended that he be released from active duty for reason of dependency. APPR. So he did this on August 17th, 1959. Less than a month later, on September the 11th, he was released from active duty in the Marine Corps on a hardship discharge, honorable. Less than a month.
Could it have been intentional?
You think? And this is after his mother's claim was settled.
Right.
And the doctor said she's fine. She can work. She just doesn't want to.
Maybe he needed another reason out, for sure.
Well, there was no other reason. That's the reason.
Well, I'm saying maybe he needed another excuse once the mother's BS claim was kind of debunked, right?
No, it had already been debunked by this time by 2 months.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So maybe he's now trying something else.
No, he's doing it, and they're letting him do it because they didn't investigate it. If they would have investigated her claim at all, they would have seen that she was not a hardship case.
Yeah,
she's fine.
Yeah,
but they just granted him this release that was very rarely ever given. Right. You have to prove that a family member is in dire need, of your presence, physical presence. Because they could just say, okay, well, she can't work, but you can send her money and still be in the Marine Corps. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She has to be like physically disabled and need care
to do that, which makes you think, he was, being, like we talked about earlier, maneuvered in some type of way. And Trey had a really good thing. I just caught Pett equals petitioner, he thinks.
Yep, you're right, Trey, and I'm an idiot.
I didn't pick up on that either. So I was like,
yeah, no, I didn't.
I was like, who's Pett?
I didn't either. You were on it like a hornet, Trey, as usual.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Must be that Shreveport coming out in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you go to Shreveport. You get a download.
Yeah, well, maybe we need to make a trip.
Yeah. I'd be down. Don't have to convince me.
I'll meet you at the Gay 90s, Joe.
Yeah. Well, it's only a couple hours from Dallas. Maybe I'll take a road trip there at Lancer. You bring Doug along.
All right, folks, that's about it for us this week. It's about time for Dean Andrews to grab his umbrella and the horn section to start blowing us out of here. So before we do, we want to say thank you. Thank you. Make sure you are liking, subscribing.
Yes.
The show. It really helps us out for sure.
With the algo. Yep. Every like helps.
The more you guys comment in the comment section, it helps as well. Mm-hmm. So thank you guys for hanging out with us once again. It's been a true pleasure once again.
Always.
To hang out with you guys. Dino.
Yes. Thank you, John, Perpetual Concepts, Trey, and Paula for those super chats.
Yes, you guys rock, and you float our boats on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week.
Yeah.
Deanie.
King Parish Prison. He dare not talk for the record, but he said, "Come to Bourbon Street and I'll show you what I think of the case." King Parish Prison. He did.
Hold on, time out. Before we take two, Joe, what in the hell are you doing over there?
I was playing the trumpet.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Is that what they call it in New Orleans, Joe?
That's what they do. Yeah.
So it's a big man, Mr. Garrison.
I'm thinking about Shreveport in the gay 90s. What do you want?
Let's try that again. Dean, God damn it, hit it.
King Parish Prison. He dare not talk for the record, but he said, "Come to Bourbon Street and I'll show you what I think of the case." The greatest lies are told in the name of truth. The greatest crimes are committed in the name of justice. The quotation is Jim Garrison's. It could be used for him or against him in this strange case. Good night.